So normally for something like a political debate, I would probably write a big long political post, have a bunch of people argue back and forth on it. And, I felt like in this time, I'd rather just do a video and see who wants to watch it and maybe do it again later. And I'm a pretty smart political person. I'm not really represented by either side of this conversation right now, or these two candidates. I'm typically a fiscal conservative and a moderate on progressive or social issues. So I feel like I can come at this with a little bit more of an independent view than the average person, at least the average person in America right now, or maybe I do represent the average American. I don't know, but I think the people who lost last night more than anybody else were the people who really prepared for the debate, had done some research going into it and took the time out of their schedule to tune in and watch what was for the better part of the conversation an absolute embarrassment to our country. I'll start off by talking about Trump and what I thought he did well, because he did have some good moments, but obviously what he did poorly. What he did poorly more than anything else was he didn't shut up. At the end of the day, you have to get out of your own way if you want to be successful in politics. And a prime example, he was asked the question about Black Lives Matter and why African Americans should feel better about him as a president. My personal answer would have been something along the lines of, because I don't pander to one group or another. I do the job, and because I've done the job exceptionally well, African American unemployment is X, wage growth in the African American community is here, and most African Americans can say they're better off today than they were 4 years ago. But he didn't do that. He decided to go off on a rant. He started talking about law and order. He started talking about the police. Kind of the opposite of what you would want to do if you were trying to talk about, why African Americans, who are in large percentages not happy with the police right now. So, and Trump's failures have always been he doesn't know how to usually complete a sentence on topic, and he rambles and he gets off subject. And he did that last night. And obviously the big elephant in the room about Trump last night was he just would not let Biden speak. For that matter, neither would Biden let Trump speak. So those are the things he did poorly. The things he did, and he did it throughout. So I'm saying that very quickly, but he did it throughout. The things he did well, the emphasis of the 47 years versus 47 months, I thought that was a masterstroke. I thought whoever in his campaign came up with that, I know I've seen that in some of the stuff that they put out, but you can't sit back and say that Biden hasn't had a chance to address all these things he wants to address for the last 47 years. He literally has a B- voting record, right? Some things have been good, some things have been bad. And most of the good things were he was on somebody else's coattails. So I thought that was a great point by Trump. I thought that his subtle digs every time that that Biden would talk about, I'm not doing that, and it was a far left position. He would say, well, you just lost so-and-so. You just lost the far left. I thought that was a great point. And then, of course, I thought that whenever he talked about Biden's lack of support from the law enforcement community, people still want to know that the law supports a candidate, even if it's one person. But there's literally, I don't think anybody in the law enforcement community that has endorsed Biden. So that was a great point. He came through with energy. These were things that you kind of expected from Trump, but he was very forceful. He seemed very disappointed, angry at Biden and the things that have been said. But the big failure, and I think it's about what was said versus what was heard, was when he had a chance to denounce white supremacists, he failed. And it doesn't matter if I think Chris Wallace's question was, whenever he said, what do you want me to call them? He said, white supremacists or white pride militia. And he said, Proud Boys, stand down, stand by. And I do think that was him saying stand down. I think that was somewhat of a calling out that group. But at the end of the day, he did not call out and condemn white supremacists. And That was a disappointment. On the flip side of it, let's talk about Joe. So the things that Joe did well were he didn't really let Trump get under his skin. There was a few times that he did, but I mean, going back to Hillary and her debates with Trump, he got under her skin, and she was clearly frazzled in those debates. Biden, for the most part, was able to laugh it off or brush it off. Biden scored some big points in talking about the military, and bringing his son Beau into the conversation. He talked about his success in bringing back the auto industry. He did a lot of things referencing the successes that he had under Obama as much as anything, and really painting himself as the alternative to Trump. The parts where Biden really failed, in my opinion, were if you're going to take the high road and talk about a president that has been, beneath the office of the presidency, you owe it to yourself and the people who are wanting to see that to show you are not going to take the low road. And I don't care who the president is. I don't care if I agree with them or disagree with them. You don't tell a president, shut up. You don't call him a clown. You don't tell him to stuff it or whatever he said. I think it was stuff it or shove it or something. He was utterly disrespectful, and that really personally bothered me. I thought that Trump didn't deserve it, but those were points for people on his far left or the base, and I get that, but I think he lost some credibility for being the guy that can be respectful in that conversation. Hillary tried to go toe-to-toe and slinging things back and forth with Trump 4 years ago. It didn't work for her. I don't think this played well for Biden as well. He still can't finish a complete sentence, it seems like, without losing train of thought. Whatever that is, it's a fact at this point in time. And had Trump been quiet for a little bit longer, I think you would have seen far more examples of that than you would have. So I think overall Biden probably won the debate overall, barely, maybe, just because he was probably going to get better reviews in general. He didn't really do anything to rock his base. He didn't. He did try and get away from some of those far left positions, but again, that could ultimately hurt him. I've heard of a few Sanders supporters already that said, "Yep, that's what we were expecting. He's going to dismiss these things." So I don't know that he won it, but I think he ultimately did better than Trump. At the end of the day, though, the cautionary tale here is 8 years ago, whenever Romney and Obama debated, Romney came out of that first debate with a glowing record. I think he actually went up in the polls over Obama. And the feedback on Obama was he was tired, he was lethargic, seemed ill-prepared. And he was really slammed, and it really impacted the campaign for a few weeks. Then the second and third campaign came on, and the president was a president, and he was far more prepared, far more capable of responding to Mitt Romney than he had been in the first debate. And that's actually a historic trend. The sitting president does poorly in the first debate, and then he bounces back in the second and third. So if that's true, and if Trump can do something he hasn't really shown himself capable of doing in the past, which is learning from his mistakes in public speaking, then at the end of the day, this actually might have even been a win for Trump. But the things I've seen on Twitter are typical. The left are saying that Trump lost. The right is saying that Biden lost. It's up to everybody to decide for themselves. I don't think these debates are ultimately going to change a lot of opinions. It might actually only change the idea that maybe a third party should have been up there to help moderate some of this debate. And the last thing I'll say is I don't know what to think of Chris Wallace as a moderator last night. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him as an investigative or as a journalist. I think he's typically one of the best in the industry. This seemed almost like too much for him to handle, and he at times seemed to be in the debate as opposed to moderating the debate, and I don't think that was his part to play. So I would probably give him maybe the worst grade of all, but I still want to be fair to him and say who could have done better. So I think the joke was Samuel L. Jackson might have done better for the next debate. So anyway, those are my 10-minute thoughts on the debate. Like I said, I'll post this on YouTube, and if this is well received, then I'll post it again after the next debate and maybe periodically on other issues. So cheers, God bless, and go vote.